Hello, and welcome to episode number 50 of Cutscene Convos. Half a century.
Yeah, the big 5-0.
Yeah. Remember when we used to celebrate each individual episode? We're like, we've made it to 6. There's no stopping us now.
Yeah, we got past the first 10 and we're like, we're consistent.
Yeah, this is impressive. And now we're at 50 and we're like, yeah, no biggie. And what? We've got an absolutely stacked episode this week. The character profile is going to be on the Taskmaster. We will, of course, be covering Bad Batch episode 3 before I test Hori's movie knowledge. We will then be discussing what we might want to achieve in the next 50 episodes of the podcast. We will, of course, be breaking down the Ant-Man trailer before we round up the Nerd News Network of the week. And then finish off, as always, with our superhero showdown, which is Swamp Thing versus Red Hood. But before all of that, Hori, how was your week?
It's been good. Lots going on. And I mean, it was chill. Felt like a chill start to the week, I'll be honest. It was away at the weekend. Girlfriends. Chill weekend, came back, work was chill this week, and then in the space of 24 hours it went from chill to there's a very quick deadline, that because things change.
Literally went 0 to 100.
Yeah, literally went from like, I've got a couple of weeks before that's going to be done, I've got plenty of time I can work on, like, it's not a priority yet, to this is now a priority. Yeah, so that's fun. Plus, just lots going on and we're only 12 days into the year, and I'm like, cool, this is fun. I'm enjoying it, and I'm also started streaming, so now I want to play Valorant more. I'm playing Rust, I'm playing Tarkov. Too many things.
Can't be a gamer right now.
Too many things going on. Not enough time to game. Is 100%. What I'm discovering.
So if anyone wants to sponsor the podcast and find a way and then me and Hori will find a way to cover that for like us being able to have both a week off of everything to just game, we'd love you forever.
If you want to invest, be a Series A investor and give us $10 million,
you can have 1% of the podcast for 500 million.
Yes.
Which I believe would probably put us up there in like Jeff Bezos territory pretty quickly.
Oh yeah, that's a value in the company at a ridiculous level.
We would get investigated by not the IRS, HMRC, pretty fucking sharpish.
We might as well just set up one of those American candy stores that they have in London.
Yeah, not wrong.
But yeah, my week chill now, kind of crazy, but we move. How's your week been?
It's actually not been too bad. Back end of last year and the beginning of this year, like, as you know, there's lots of projects going on at my work. It's manic. But it's kind of got to the tipping point now where people more senior to me realise that actually there is so much to do and there is only so many pairs of hands currently. So there's been a concerted effort, I feel, to try and make my life a little bit easier this week.
Nice.
Which has been semi-effective. I've managed to not only get the work that I needed to get done, but I've not felt stressed about the other work that previously wouldn't have been done because someone else was able to help me with it and handle it partially. So yeah, it's actually been pretty good. My parents had been away since January 1st, so I picked them up from the airport late last night. It's all good. I've got new stuff because you can't see it. There's stuff over there because I got the itch to change things. So I'm going to be mounting my monitors and stuff.
You're becoming a full-on PC gamer now.
Yeah, the gigabit cable is being installed soon. We're measuring up for it this weekend.
Jealous.
I cannot wait. I'm going to download the footage before you even upload it, pal.
Oh, mate.
It's going to be great. I can't wait. But yeah, it's actually all going quite well over here. It's just it's like coming into New Year. It's pretty busy. Not that I necessarily go for a New Year's resolution approach, but I do try and use the start of the year as a way to try and kick into good habits.
I know what you mean.
And I've been pretty successful with that so far, and I'm hoping to continue it.
Cool. I'd love to see
But enough about us. It's that time of year because we're waiting for like content to really start rolling that I was like, who do I do a character profile on?
Ah, yes. Who haven't we touched on?
Yes. Unfortunately, a while back I went through and like re-looked at everyone we'd done, and I do try and keep that list up to date. And I realised I was missing a very, very cool character who I very openly said I enjoy, but who was also
Yes.
a part of the Spider-Man games. And,
Oh,
and because I am playing this, I'm currently trying 100% the first Spider-Man game. I've been
you were
having to go through and
reminded.
do his side missions. So I was like, that is a brilliant option. So we're covering the Taskmaster. Now, for the people who just watched the films, this character is going to be very different to what you have seen in the film.
Yep.
And while you might not necessarily understand why people who are aware of the character's origins are so angry about it, hopefully this will explain a bit better. So, the Taskmaster, aka Anthony Masters, first appeared in Avengers number 195 in February 1980. He is a former SHIELD agent turned mercenary and assassin. Taskmaster is best known for being able to replicate both the physical skills, combat, and athletic. So if he sees someone run and perform a perfect, I don't know, somersault, he can replicate that.
Yeah.
But he can also watch someone practice jujitsu for 10 minutes and replicate exactly what they did. It doesn't mean he
Yes.
masters it, he learns it to the level that he witnessed.
Yeah.
And that is due to his photographic reflexes. The interesting thing is this skill was then enhanced while he was a SHIELD agent.
Right.
While him and his partner were investigating something, they came across a old Nazi scientist who had been working on an experimental version of the super soldier serum,
Of course.
which he was then injected with.
Right.
This enhanced his photographic reflexes, but it came at a cost that his own memories would be overwritten.
Ah.
Which meant he couldn't remember. His long-term memory was shot to pieces.
Yeah.
This caused him to forget about his field partner, who was also his wife.
Ooh.
Now, as we often do, I can't confirm if this is or isn't. This is one of the things that feels like a bit of a retcon.
Okay.
He was then guided by his wife into his life as the Taskmaster, where he would work as mercenaries and assassins for hire for the criminal world. But unbeknownst to him, he was actually the ultimate double agent because his wife was his handler.
Okay.
That feels like they used him as a villain for a while and they wanted to add more depth. So they went, okay, how can we make this work? Feels like a retcon. Not necessarily a bad one. One of the better ones we've seen. We've seen some howlers.
Yeah. We have.
If this is a retcon, it's an okay one. Eventually, he decided to capitalize on the sheer amount of superheroes that were in the world by starting the Taskmaster Academy. So he kind of put a lot of his life of crime per se behind him.
Yeah.
And started an academy where, by obviously studying people, he was able to then teach people. Here he taught government agents, villains, heroes, and henchmen. He didn't give a fuck who turned up to his school. He would teach you regardless, as long as their checks cleared.
Fair. I can respect that.
The thing about the Taskmaster motivation is it's always just been financial. The guy doesn't give a fuck. He is just doing his job.
Yeah.
Which is why, other than when he gets paid, he doesn't really cause too much trouble, because I'm not trying to get in a fist fight with Captain America or Hulk or Deadpool or Spider-Man for free. It's not worth it.
Something needs to cover my insurance policy.
Yeah. Before long, he returned to his mercenary ways. However, they did kind of change his style. So previously, he would use like replications of the big heroes' weapons. So he had his own version of Captain America's shield and stuff like that. When he returned to being a mercenary, he got rid of all that kind of gimmicky stuff. and he just kind of used more traditional arsenal weapons. Arsenal weapons. And that
Okay.
kind of allowed him to be the character he is. A couple of notable mentions is he very canonically cannot fight Deadpool. Because, and I quote, he's too unpredictable. So he can watch him and remember what he's doing, but the way he fights is so erratic and unpredictable, he can never predict what he's going to do, because that's a big way he learns to fight people. He watches Spider-Man solve crimes. He knows how he fights, so then he can predict what Spider-Man will do when he's going to fight him. Deadpool's so all over the place and stupid that he can't predict him. Yeah. One of my favorite ways this was shown was in, I think it was the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show.
Oh.
Where in the middle of the fight, he looks like he's about to throw a punch. And as Taskmaster's getting ready to block it, it cuts away. And as it cuts back to Deadpool, he's got a sombrero on and he's cooking enchiladas. and it's a really silly way to show it, but there's kind of that idea of, yeah, he might look like he's about to punch you, but fuck knows what he's really trying to do. So that's quite cool. I love the Taskmaster as a villain. I would be very, very happy for them to make a underarching story, because I think everyone's kind of the opinion with the MCU after the multiverse saga, we're going to kind of get like 3 levels of MCU. We're going to get street level, then we're going to have your standard kind of superhero films, then you're going to have your big event films. I would be very okay if they wanted to give the street level a overarching story where he was like popping up regularly as like a villain for your Daredevils, your Spider-Man, your Miss Marvels to have to fight.
Yeah.
Maybe under the payroll of a Kingpin or something. I think that could be very interesting.
Well, we potentially will be having them as a Thunderbolt.
Yeah. So here's my problem with the MCU's interpretation. And anyone who had an issue with Taskmaster being a woman is just thick, because it actually doesn't make any difference.
No.
The problem is they got rid of Taskmaster's sense of humor. They got rid of the wittiness, and they made Taskmaster essentially just a slave who remembers everything.
Yeah, it was just like
super henchman. It's like when you're like playing a game and you've got the basic henchmen that you beat up, but then after a certain point they add,
then the game saves and you're like, oh, there's a
and then you get like the bigger henchman. It's not quite a boss fight, but it's a bit more difficult. That's all Taskmaster was used for in Black Widow, which that's what annoyed me, because Taskmaster is so good.
Yeah, it's like they took the idea of, in the comics, his wife being a handler, and they were like, ooh, we could do something like that. But then they went too far with that, and it was less handler and more controller.
Yeah, Taskmaster felt more like a robot than a person. But they can recover that with Thunderbolts.
Yes, and with the fact that like she's been freed now, so like
because you've got to remember that was before, like canonically, that was like during the time between Civil War and Infinity War.
God, yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was
so this is like 7 years later in the timeline.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So they can recover this character, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is what I hope they do. Now, on to Bad Batch episode 3.
Oh.
Shout out the homie Dave. My guy does not miss. He simply does not.
He really doesn't. And the first thing, visually style of this episode, the colors, like I loved it.
Yeah. So for a Bad Batch episode, the Bad Batch were not really in it, other than Crosshair, if you still count him as a Bad Batcher.
Yeah, I mean it's. Yeah, I know what you mean.
It was interesting because the show up until now has literally just followed their every move. If you're not watching them, you're just watching like a scene without them, not a full episode.
Yeah, we would have like a mix of like Crosshair's POV on their POV.
But this was very much, okay, since what happened on Camino at the end of season 2, where's Crosshair? Was he ever found? Is he still on Camino? Did he die? What's going on? So we find out that Crosshair eventually got found and saved. He's back with the Empire. We hear some of the other clones talking about that the Senate is voting on
if they can just recruit people.
Yeah. And it is very interesting because obviously a big talking point was always, well, we know the clone troopers are supposed to be OP, why are the stormtroopers shit in the films? And once again, Dave Fillion has gone, don't worry, I'm going to solve this plot hole.
Well,
so he's made a whole story point around how they went from the clones to kidnapping children and turning them into soldiers.
Well, yeah, and it's also like, you'd watch the first trilogy, the 4, 5, and 6, and obviously there was this understanding that stormtroopers weren't all the same. Then we see obviously the prequels and it's clone troopers. So there's this like, at what point did the Empire switch? It's kind of never shown.
Yeah.
It's kind of just like known that at some point they switched to recruiting people. But yeah, Dave's kind of taken it upon it. It's like that thing of, he has like a list of things that he wants to just like tie up loose ends and fix, and one being the transition of clones to just soldiers.
Yeah.
And how do we show that?
And it's been done really well so far.
Yeah.
You get to see the clones are obviously concerned about essentially losing their jobs and what that might mean for a clone.
Well, yeah, and it's like even things in, this is like slight track, but like even in Mandalorian, we saw a clone trooper begging, and it shows like the aftermath of like what happened to the clones and stuff. But yeah, nice little touch on that.
Yeah.
We also see that Crosshair is quite clearly an outsider amongst the clone troopers.
Yeah, he's not liked at all. I mean, the Bad Batch were like, even during the Clone Wars, they were a bit kind of, they're weird.
They're the weird experiment group.
And now they look at him and they go, well, the rest of your team fucked off. How can we actually trust you? As well as being the weird fucking freak from the lab.
Though he knows they've escaped. I guess everyone else thinks they're dead.
Yes. And then we get to find out that Commander Cody's still cutting about.
Yeah, he is.
It's really funny to me that even though we know we're watching the Empire and the clones, and all these clones have portrayed the Jedi, that Commander Cody is still so likable.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's really well done. It's really well done.
And there was also, we see with Commander Cody, like we're seeing back to that transition of clone trooper to stormtrooper. We're seeing the armor change as well now.
Yeah. They're every kind of episode you get a little bit closer in the armor.
It's back to the whole thing of Dave's doing before Order 66, after Order 66, what we said. Like that's his cut-off point.
Yeah. As far as Dave is concerned, Order 66 is year 0.
Yes.
Because that is actually the big turning point in the Star Wars universe as we've seen it. So that's where things change. So that's where he's going to use his changes. But the whole premise of the episode is they've gone to one of the separatist planets, ironically, who didn't want to be a part of the Empire, to kind of go, no, we're in charge now. And rightfully so, they've gone, no, fuck you, this is our planet.
Oh, and by the way, we've reprogrammed some drones.
Yeah, I really did enjoy that. And they kidnapped the person who's now supposed to be in charge of that planet. And then Cody, Crosshair, and other unnamed troopers get sent to rescue the governor and execute the rebellion, essentially.
Yeah, Ben, essentially they're like, we are a fake diplomatic convoy, but then the droids kind of already figured that out and start shooting on them anyway. And then classic droid, I love that, like, we're meant to be done with the droids, but we're back with the droids. And it's like, they go to the crash ship and they're like, no survivors. And they just look in. And it's like the whole fucking Roger, Roger. And then next second, they're all dead.
Droids are the best form of comedy relief I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, because they're just... And
they're just so well done.
Yeah, they're great. And it's kind of nice being back with the whole clone troopers versus droids and that little like fight.
It's really interesting because you find yourself rooting for the other side now.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like you start rooting for the clone troopers, and then you're like, wait, no, that's the Empire. No, we want the droids to win.
Yeah, it was a really good episode. and we
some
get
cool moments with Crosshair.
Yeah, some really cool moments, especially when they were like fighting to take over the bridge and that, and you get to see Crosshair at his real peak of I don't miss bitch.
Well, yeah, there's the bridge and then up the spiral staircase. The way that was done and that whole sequence, really well put together.
Yeah. So they managed to get in and find the soon-to-be governor. And then Cody, the goat,
actually
uses his
take peace as an option.
Yeah, he uses his diplomatic powers to kind of go, okay, we can resolve this peacefully. No one has to die. Let our guy go. We'll work this out. And she does, and you can tell Cody genuinely does want that to be how it goes down.
Well, yeah, because I think although they're like the Order 66 thing, they're still, that's just one part that was rewired in them.
And this is what I'm saying. This is the big thing that I think is going to be a big overarching. Yes, all of the troopers believed in 66 because they were bred to. But after that, the order's worn off. Yeah, they're going to execute Jedis on sight, but it's almost like they were put in a hypnosis to execute the Jedis. Now they're out of the hypnosis and they're thinking freely again.
Well, it's like
they're starting to question the morality of what they're being told to do.
Well, it's the whole thing of like Order 66 is a command. That command was understood, done to the best of every clone's ability. As far as they're aware, they have killed pretty much every Jedi. That was a successful mission. Back to carry on what's our next mission. But then as soon as that happens, it's like, well, we still think the same as we did before.
Yeah.
Like, although our new thing is we're being told Jedi are bad now.
Yeah. The only difference is they believe that executing the Jedi was the right thing to do. And yes, they believe the Empire is now the rightful person in charge. But now that that's happened, they're looking through essentially clear lenses at their bosses and going, hold the fucking phone here. Because, I mean, there was times in even the Clone Wars where the clones weren't happy with what the Jedi were asking them to do.
Yeah, the Jedi were, like, getting a bit in a grey area about things and
stuff. And the clones would be like, whoa, are we sure about this? So it shows like the clones do have a bit of their internal moral compass. They aren't just robots.
Well, that's
so
what
I think we're starting
apart,
to
right?
see, we're starting to see this whole their fog has cleared a little bit, and they're going, why are we being asked to just execute people? The fuck's going on?
Also, there was a bit of like a hint that there's more clones are starting to go AWOL. And then obviously we get this moment with Cody and then Crosshair. Crush is such a loyal boy to the cause, just executes the woman.
Yeah.
And doesn't give two shits.
Then we get, I think, which is going to be the pinnacle of the episode once they get back to, I think it was Coruscant where they're based, wasn't it?
It must be at this point.
It looked like it. Definitely wasn't Camino.
No.
No. And they go past like the monument built for all the clones who died during Order 66, I assume.
Yeah.
And he kind of went, do you think we're still the good guys? And that really does put this Dave going, if you haven't worked it out yet, this is the theme this series. Question the moral leaders and make sure you actually do agree with what they want.
Well, yeah, it's
because Dave doesn't hide the fact that Star Wars is inherently political as fuck.
Yeah, it's that split. This whole season is going to be the split of clone trooper, like Order 66 isn't actually something that controls the clones. It was just a command, and that's ended now, and they have morals. And you're going to see where the fans probably thought some of their favorite clone troopers were now the baddies. I think we're going to start to see some of them actually still pretty good guys. Because the next thing we see is the next day. Mirror of, just like in like a soldier's life of like routine, everything the same. Crosshair's awake, his alarm goes off, he goes, eats his food, gets called to the office. Mirror image of the thing before. And then he gets told to report to a different clone, to which he then brings up, wait, not Commander Cody, who the guy in charge doesn't know he doesn't know him by name. He's like, he has to say, clone trooper, whatever number.
Whatever his number was, yeah.
And then it goes, oh, he's gone AWOL last night.
It's going to be a really, really interesting series, and I'm looking forward to how this story gets put across, because so far it's coming across really nicely, and I think it's only going to get better.
Yeah, there's going to be...
And do you know what it shows once again? The Empire could have been successful if they used their brain. If they didn't ask the clone troopers to execute random civilians, they would have been able to keep them under control. Because they have no problem following orders. It's they don't want to murder innocents for no fucking reason they have an issue with.
The Empire wants to rule with fear because it's Sith-led. And unfortunately, that doesn't work.
But very, very good episode. Yeah. And we've got 13 more episodes. I cannot fucking
brilliant
wait.
episode. I'm all for these, like, not 100% focused on Bad Batch and some of these side characters. And also, like, I said at the beginning, but like the visuals of this episode and the color palette for the planet that they were on, like, definitely felt like a step up from some of these past animated Star Wars stuff. Like, it feels like they're really starting to push it.
The animation quality is really high.
Yeah, so I can't wait for this whole, like, the whole season's going to be beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Hori, are you? Do you feel like a film buff today?
No, never. No. But
so
you know, I always wing it. I'm a master at winging it, and we'll go with the gut.
So on the back of Avatar releasing and all the discussion around how much money it was going to make in its opening weekend, and then the internet, as it always does, finding something that seems ridiculous to compare it to, but is genuinely comparable in the Puss in Boots film, which apparently is phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, I've seen one clip from it and it looks fucking amazing.
Yeah. I thought it'd be really interesting to play a little game of higher or lower with looking at some of the best domestic opening weekends in history. So what this will cover is just how much money that film makes in its domestic market, which for all of these is America, in its opening weekend.
Right.
There are bonus points available, however.
What's my prize?
Your prize is pride.
Well, I'm not winning.
I tell you what, I will give you my share of whatever this episode makes.
So kind. Too kind.
There will also be bonus points for if you are within $5 million of how much it made it that weekend.
Oh, I'm guessing actual number.
Yeah. As well as higher or lower.
Okay.
So there's a point for if you get the higher or lower right, and then a point for if you're within $5 million of how much it made in the opening weekend. So we are starting with Titanic. Obviously, there is no higher or lower. How much do you think it made in its opening weekend?
Ooh. This was a long time ago.
It was.
What did Titanic make in its opening weekend? Oh no, I'm gonna throw a random number out. 20 million.
You know what? That is not a bad guess, but you do not get your bonus point. 28.6 million in its opening weekend.
Oh, it's close. All right, so 28.6 for Titanic.
Higher or lower? The Avengers in 2012. I'm not going to give you the year for all of them. I just know that the Avengers came out in 2012.
Is this the first Avengers?
This is the first Avengers film. Avengers Assemble, as it was. I'm
going to go lower.
Shown in most of the world. You're going to go lower. Would you like to give me a figure?
16 million.
16. You're wrong.
Oh.
It is higher. 207 million.
Oh shit! I was thinking, but it hadn't picked up yet.
Titanic is a bit of an anomaly for how much money the film ended up making. It had unprecedentedly bad opening weekend.
Oh.
It was there to be a red herring. So you're currently 0 for 3. Now, next, higher or lower? Iron Man 3.
than 200 and what was Avengers? 200 and
207.
Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting into the thick of MCU here. I'm gonna go higher.
You're gonna go higher. Would you like to throw a figure on that?
Let's go like 220.
You are once again wrong.
Oh, sick.
It was lower at 174 million. Not bad, to be fair, for a solo film compared to a team up film. But you are.
I was thinking, if he'd said 2, I would have definitely gone lower. But
yeah. Next up, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, higher or lower than 174 million?
Higher.
Higher. Would you like to throw a number on that?
300 million.
You reckon 300?
Yeah.
You are wrong on both counts.
Yep. Cool. Sick.
It was lower at 155.
God, Star Wars fans are the worst. Like, one of the best Star Wars films in years, and they just did not show up. Disappointed.
No, in the opening weekend, overall, it might have ended up.
Well, yeah, but I'm still disappointed.
Next up, higher or lower than 155 million? The Dark Knight, the second of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy.
Higher.
Higher? Okay. And how much are you putting on that?
Those films were very well loved. 220.
220. You were right that it was higher.
Finally.
But it was only 158 million.
Oh. Only just.
Only just higher.
I'm surprised because everyone talks so highly of the. I am on the board. I'm on a breadstick.
You've also got to remember that came out like before superhero films were the biggest thing in the fucking world.
Yeah, that is true.
For the time, that was like crazy numbers.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, not to downplay how brilliant the film is, was due to Heath Ledger's passing as well.
Yeah. MCU's really skewed things, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. Guardians Volume 2, higher or lower than 158 million?
Higher.
Higher? Okay. Care to throw a number on that?
280.
280. Wrong. 146.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loves the Guardians. I suppose the second one was a bit.
Weekend. There was a lot going on around the second one as well. I'm pretty sure it had a pretty tough month of competition. Next up, The Incredibles 2, higher or lower than 146 million?
Oh, higher.
How much?
320.
320. You are fucking off your rocker. Yeah, it was indeed higher, but 182 million.
I like to think that all the millennials came out and showed support.
I mean, they clearly did. I mean, it did better numbers than Iron Man 3 in its opening weekend. It is our It's our third highest so far.
Jeez.
Okay, next up. Higher or lower than 182 million, the remake of The Lion King, which was live action, quote unquote.
Oh, lower.
Lower. Okay, how much?
What did we say? 180.
182.
136.
136.
Oh.
191 million.
Oh, it's only slightly.
Only just slightly.
I didn't like the live action one.
Neither did I, but there was a lot of hype around it. You got to remember, this is opening weekend before a lot of the reviews get out.
I know, but still.
Next up, higher or lower than 191 million, Avengers Endgame.
Oh, higher.
Okay, and how much you saying?
Avengers Endgame. 300 million.
Are you ready to laugh? You were still too low.
Oh.
357 million.
Jeez, I knew it was high.
Yeah. It's impressive. Avatar: The Way of Water, higher or lower than 357 million
on its opening weekend.
Opening weekend, just domestically.
Lower.
And how much?
Like 200 million.
You are correct. It was lower, but you didn't go low enough.
Oh,
134 million.
I nearly said 150, but I was like, nah, surely it did better than that.
Okay. Yeah, 134.1 million.
That's had an impressive climb while it's been out, because it did not start strong.
Yeah. Well, you've got to remember as well, that was just domestically in America.
Well, yeah,
its opening, the global opening weekend will have been a lot higher.
True.
Higher or lower than 134.1 million? The Batman.
I'm gonna go higher.
Higher, okay.
But only like 150 million.
150. It was 134,008,000. It made $92,000 less in its opening weekend.
You're such a tricky bullshit.
And now, the Batman, 134 million.
Mm.
Or Finding Dory.
Finding Dory is Disney. I feel like this is going to be higher.
Okay.
170.
170. You're right, it was higher. However, it was only 135.
You just got bored at this point. You just got bored. It was like,
So out of, what was this?
I got like 4 points.
You
out
got
of like 20.
1, 2, 3, 4. You got 5.
Oh.
Out of, around about 20.
Great KD, bad standard from my Valorant games.
But it does show just the craziness in the monies that films can make. And also, I believe Avengers is the only film to make 300 million domestically in its opening weekend.
It's wild how much like the MCU skews perception of some of these films.
That's a lie. I think there are 2 films that made 300 million domestically in their opening weekend. Would you like to guess what the other was?
What was the other? Like Interstellar or something.
No Way Home.
Oh.
Which is, and I know that for a fact because I remember that broke the fucking internet because we were still in COVID and it wasn't that easy to get tickets for it and it still managed to do 300 million.
But yeah, it's wild how much the MCU skews, especially against other superhero films. You forget that like some of the older ones weren't as big.
So 357 million had Avengers Endgame at number 1. No Way Home was second with like just over 300 million. The Dark Knight at 158 million was down to like 47 or something.
Jeez.
So like still one of the best opening weekends of all time. But it made half that of number 1.
Yeah.
Less than half. Close to half that number 2.
It just shows like how times have changed.
It also shows why the MCU pumps out so many films.
Oh yeah. Like they're printing money.
Yeah. And they're going to continue to do so. And I mean, as long as we're still enjoying it and people still want to go see it, that's not necessarily a problem. But it does show how they're able to have all these superstars in their films as well.
Oh, yeah, because they can offer them ridiculous salaries because they know they're going to make the money.
That they can make a loss on She-Hulk or their TV shows because guess what? When they release Secret War, I genuinely think it could do more than Endgame. There's a chance.
Depends on the build-up to it.
It depends on the quality between now and then, 100%. But there is a chance if they do it right that can make more money.
Yeah, if they get the story going and get people hooked in again, like they did with Endgame.
Yeah. But there you go. Now,
well, let us know how you did in the comments because I did atrociously.
Maybe if we're ever running low on a little bit of news, we'll do more little fun quizzes like this.
And you can watch me suck.
maybe next time we'll choose an easier one.
My general knowledge is terrible, apparently.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If Jenna listens to this episode, she'll be very happy because she did better than you. Because I tested it on her to see if it was too difficult. And she was adamant she was going to do worse than you'd do. By the way. But the next one might be a little bit self-indulgent.
Yeah.
But I think we've earned it. Through 50 episodes, we've done a lot here. We've covered loads of TV shows, loads of films. We've done 47 character profiles now. We have covered lots of big bits of news. We've uploaded over 2,000 videos, including shorts, to this YouTube channel. And I think we're like 3,000 views of 200,000 views on the channel,
which is nuts.
So like we've hit a lot of goals in these 50 episodes so far.
Oh yeah.
So I thought now, as a not necessarily a midpoint, so to speak, because we're not doing 50 more episodes, then fucking off. But at a significant milestone,
yeah,
I thought it might be cool to talk about what we would like to achieve by the time we hit 100. Bearing in mind that will be probably the last episode of the year, assuming we don't miss any.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I have one prediction I've already thought in my head because I looked at things at the end of the year. Is I expect us and hope, but I expect us to be at 1K subs in the next 50 episodes. And if we're on 200,000 views, I'm going to say it. I think we break 1 million channel views.
By the end of this year, you reckon we're doing 800,000 views this year?
Yeah, because everything's exponential. So
okay, I like that. I think I'm not quite as lofty as you, and it's fine. I was thinking maybe 750, but there is a very good chance we hit 1,000. And 750,000 views.
So I'm a bit more. I think it's going to ramp quicker. Which
there is a real chance that we get caught off guard around the summer when there's lots of big stuff coming out, and all of a sudden there's views racking up aggressively.
Yeah, I do.
Which I'm here for.
YouTube is known to be like an exponential thing. Everyone always says the gap to your first milestone is always half the amount of time to the same milestone again.
Yeah.
So I'm calling it 1K views, 1K subs, 1 million channel views.
And
episode
fair,
100.
Around the middle of last year, maybe not the middle, just before the middle, and then just coming into the beginning of the summer, maybe I slacked off a little bit because we were struggling to get shorts in a easy way for me to get them sorted. So we dropped off in the amount of shorts we were producing, which, like, if you look at any of our graphs, we had a nice big spike when we started, then it plateaued, and then once I worked out the kinks, we were back up here again. So I think now that we're not going to have that issue, there is every chance in hell we do break 1,000 subs. And all it takes is 2 good weeks as well, and like you could have a crazy month.
Separate from channel success or podcast success over the next 50 episodes, I have predictions for, I guess it's sort of achieved, but also like things that I do think will happen in the next 50 episodes. And more for fun of calling it now, because it's always fun to be able to go back and say, look, we said it at episode 50. I think we're going to have an episode which will be titled Iron Man Returns to MCU. I think that's going to happen.
I mean, we could just do that for lols anyway.
We could. But I'm calling out, in the next 50 episodes, we're going to have an episode that is titled Iron Man Returns to MCU. I think also, I'm trying to think what else would be cool to achieve in the next 50 episodes.
I think it would be cool to
I would love to achieve getting a sponsor.
That would be very cool. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility as either. I think a thing that I've heard a lot of small creators aren't good enough at doing, and if that is the case, we are definitely in that bracket as well, of they're not good enough at reaching out. Because in reality, if we have a couple of good months and we're starting to get views, we operate in a niche.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, you can actually be relatively confident that the people who do view our stuff are interested in what we talk about.
Yeah.
So maybe one of us, once we have numbers that are worthy of going, you need to consider this, one of us can go to the local comic book shop or whatever and go, you want a sponsor spot?
I think we should go to Wizards of the Coast, and with the whole D&D drama that's going on.
Now, I think I'm going to give you some airtime about that in the Nerd News Network, because I've seen that there is drama, but I have no knowledge of what's gone on there, so I'm very curious to hear about that.
We will discuss it later, but yeah, I've looked into it a little bit, but we can talk about that.
But I think also another thing, and I'm not even sure if we can call it an achievement in the next 50 episodes.
Okay.
But it's something I want to do. Purely as a proof of concept, and it would be very cool, is I would like to get, because I own loads of hats. I don't think I've really worn many hats on the podcast, but I do own a fuck ton of hats. I would love to get a very nicely made hat that is embroidered with our logo, a la Kevin Feige. I don't know why. I just want one. I after like 12 episodes, I was like, how expensive are they?
So what you said is what we should do is you get a baseball cap and become Kevin Feige. I get the cowboy hat that Dave Filoni wears.
Yeah, no, I'm down. I'm so down.
We just embody them into the.
Yeah. And I can promise right now that I'm going to make episode 69 the horniest episode we've done.
Oh dear.
I'm good.
Well, if that's the case, we've got to get Josh back on.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to go through and I'm going to find like the horniest comic book arcs and stories, and we're going to discuss
the wildest comic superhero hookups.
I'm talking Ultimate Universe, Scarlet Witch, and Quicksilver.
Who is the most obscure person that Daredevil has hooked up with?
Yeah. But I think overall, we've got through 50. I say got through, it makes it sound like a chore. We've managed to stay consistent for 50 episodes, which, I mean, there's always a nervousness when you start a project like this, especially with both of us being as we are. But I think when we started this, we both said we want this to be the consistent thing that we're always doing, and then other content can flicker in and out as we need it to mentally.
Yeah, and I think also like there was definitely like that period, like in the early summer, like second quarter of the year, where things, spring were really quiet, and the fact that we got through that with content and still made decent content through it, despite not having a lot to discuss or talk about, I think that proved to us like, oh, this is a concept that works, and like we can stick through this.
Yeah.
So.
Another thing that again, I'm not sure it's necessarily achievement. It probably would fall closer to more of a New Year's resolution. I want to get better at our Twitter.
I know what you mean.
I don't get Twitter. I'm bad at other social medias. While I don't necessarily execute that well, I get them. Twitter, I don't. I'm bad.
I'd like to think that I somewhat get Twitter from a brand's point of view. I'm terrible with my own, but yeah, I do. There's something I thought about, which was like I do feel we do lack a bit on our social media front.
I would
which
very much like
hard to do on top of everything.
I think if we start ramping up a bit quickly, when we maybe hit 500 subs, I think it's time to go for an Instagram, especially with Reels getting so much bigger. Maybe it's time for me to consider reviving the TikTok. And Twitter 100. I might just turn Twitter into my ramblings on things that are happening on the internet.
And then if you see a nerd, maybe I'll post the memes. You can post the rants.
Yeah, and maybe that will just create not necessarily controversy, because I don't want people to think I'm just gonna say shit to cause an argument, but maybe me just putting like not necessarily an unfiltered opinion, but a raw reaction opinion will create a little bit of an interest in the account, which we can then convert into people over here listening to the more fleshed out thoughts.
Yeah, I do think something we can achieve in the next 50 episodes is like improving our social media for the podcast.
I mean, we already discussed before the episode today, we've now seen that Spotify offers video support as well.
Yeah.
So for those who listen on Spotify, video might be an option for you guys soon. We are looking into it. But we do want to not stagnate. We want to keep improving.
Yeah, that's the whole, with content creation, it's about looking at what's working, figuring out where to improve next.
I mean, some of you guys will have noticed that the time we upload our segments has changed over the last couple of months because we were trying things, testing things, seeing what works. We think we might have found something that's working now. We're going to run it a little bit longer. We are always trying to improve what we're putting out. And if that continues along the next 50 episodes, I think while I said Hori's goal was lofty, there is every chance in 50 episodes time we look back at this and go, we were so pessimistic of what we could achieve.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. To those who are here and part of the OG, I guess it's 300. Oh, I remember when I was saying subscribe now to be part of the OG 100. The OG 100 are fully allowed to gatekeep everyone. But you guys are still like ground floor peoples, and we do appreciate you.
If only the OG 100 can influence a decision on our superhero showdowns, we only care for their opinion.
Yeah. They've sat through enough of them to have an opinion.
Yes.
But anyway, enough of us tooting our own horn and talking about everything that we want to do. Let's talk about the Ant-Man trailer.
Yes.
Bro, it was so good. I actually held off watching it until today so that I could fully, at my desk with my notes up, sit down and watch it.
I think I watched it on Tuesday, not yesterday.
Tuesday's when it came out, so it was probably Tuesday. It came out like.
Oh, maybe I did watch it on. Oh, I think I watched it super late.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, but
so I think the big talking point, which unless Hori's seen it spoken about on Twitter, he definitely missed, is MODOK's face.
Oh, okay. So I was going to ask about this because I saw a tweet and then when Twitter does thing where it updates and you can't fucking find it.
Yeah.
Was like, and I was like, I don't know what to search. Like, I could have probably found it, but I didn't.
So
was
I don't
it
know if
slightly teased?
It was fully released essentially. It was just not made a big part of the trailer.
Okay.
So ages ago, we got told that MODOK was going to have a more mechanical face.
Yes.
I can't remember exactly what we said. I think we said, I think that might be like an armor thing. I don't think that's the whole thing.
We saw like a very blurred kind of image from Comic-Con or something, and it looked like he was very in his armor.
Yeah. So we saw in the trailer that he definitely does have an armory faceplate.
Yeah.
But it is then revealed later in the trailer when Kang and Scott are walking out of like a portal-y looking thing. You see MODOK behind them without the armor faceplate, and you can see who it is.
Yes.
And it is Darren Cross, who played Yellow Jacket in the first film. It was a popular fan theory because obviously he got crumpled and went into the quantum realm.
Yes.
Assumed dead. So people are going, oh, so what's happened is when in the quantum realm, his size hasn't regulated and he's been left with a huge head and smaller body, which is MODOK.
And because he was like tech focused and...
Yes, it is perfect. Now, first and foremost, if he dies in this film, I'm going to be fuming because MODOK is another brilliant character who absolutely has to make it out of the quantum realm. There's too many options.
Okay, well, also depends if they do the whole... Like, it could be a MODOK variant.
Yes, potentially. We'll see. Anyway, the MODOK design, now that we can see his head, looks sick. Yes, it's going to look a little bit weird because it's a huge, very human head on a body, but MODOK is supposed to look weird. Accept it.
it's also the quantum realm. It's all gonna look weird.
Yes. Based on the trailer, it looks like, at least for some of the film, Scott tries to work with Kang to achieve a common goal, which looks like him getting back the time he lost with Cassie while he was stuck in the quantum realm.
Yeah, it seems Kang preys on him in a way, and like on something that he can tell Scott wants.
One of the
Clear misdirection.
one of the big things in the trailer, the words pop up: "Start of a new dynasty."
Yes.
That leads me and a lot of the internet to believe that the events of this film are going to lead directly into Kang Dynasty. And while, yes, we have other films between now and then, because of the quantum realm, when this film ends and they're getting ready to come out of the quantum realm, doesn't have to align with the next film.
No.
Which could be a very good way to build hype for Kang Dynasty.
Yeah, when it said start of a new dynasty, I was like, that's definitely like a hint towards this whole Kang Dynasty idea.
Yes.
I saw a theory online that it's been going on for a while, since Loki season 1, of that point at the end when the Kang, or Timekeeper, as he is in that, he has a moment where he pauses and he goes, I can't see the future anymore. And everyone's been constantly trying to figure out what happened to cause that moment for Kang. People thought it was Scarlet Witch. Some people have predicted it was something that with Doctor Strange. There's now a new theory that the moment that this new Kang escapes the quantum realm, and it's the moment there is a new Kang at play, is why he suddenly goes, I can't see the future anymore. Because he's no longer the only Kang in control of it. So that's now a new theory as to where it could fit in the timeline of things.
Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. I think this film is going to be very important, but it's going to be important in the sense of it gives us context to things we don't know yet.
Yes.
And it teases things without telling them. So it's going to be probably mildly infuriating for some people.
Yeah.
I think for me and you who overanalyze stuff, we're going to be like,
things. Yeah.
Yeah. The big things for me to take away: the quantum realm looks gorgeous. I hope it looks that good in the final cut.
It will. I'm sure it will.
And there are far too many ring things floating about for that to not have something to do with Miss Marvel and Shang-Chi.
So that's another thing I've seen online is
there is too much there is too much spinny circly shit for this to be a coincidence.
There is a moment in the trailer where there's like spinny circle things and like this weird organic thing of like a tendril coming up to it. People are wondering if that's the like weird beacon being alerted in the Shang-Chi rings, that they like looked at. Yeah, there's stuff like that. I think also something in the trailer.
You've got to remember the beacon in Shang-Chi was also what Captain Marvel went to investigate, which led to her swapping places with Kamala. That's already all linked.
Yeah, so
or at least it's all linked in people's heads because it's a logical assumption. So yeah, that would make complete fucking sense. It also ties in with the theory that this film links into Kang Dynasty. So while this stuff's happening in the quantum realm at an accelerated pace, you've got stuff happening on Earth.
Yeah, whatever.
And these things, they're gonna line up, and it's gonna come together, and we're gonna be like, fuck yeah.
There was a very cool moment in the trailer where we visibly see a variant form when Scott splits. And I think something with this film is going to really help people understand variants a bit more and how that happens.
Do you know what I think it's going to literally be? It's going to be a moment where he has to make a decision. He's stuck in what to do. One of them decides to make one decision, and he makes that decision. The other one rips out of him, and that's the man who makes that decision. And I think the audio over the top of "You Can't Trust Him" was actually about Scott's variant.
Maybe.
Because there's this thing that's always been in science fiction and fiction that even if someone is an identical copy of you, you never trust yourself. There's this weird thing, and it does make sense, part of the human experience. But anytime there's a clone or anything in any kind of show, everyone's like, I don't trust them because they're me, and I don't trust that.
For it to be a
and I think that is
mirror.
be the thing. Yeah, and Hope's going to be like, I don't trust him.
You could be right there.
And obviously, with the context of the trailer, everyone's going to assume that line is about Kang. And let's not forget, Marvel edits shit out of their trailer.
Oh yeah, they twist shit in every which way they can.
And that's why that MODOK reveal isn't a surprise to me. Because if they wanted to, they'd just take a MODOK out or added his faceplate on.
Yeah.
They wanted us to know that that's Darren Cross.
Yes, then people start theorizing where.
Yes.
It's definitely gonna be a whole, like, I think we're gonna watch it and be like, don't trust Kang, Scott. Don't, and then Scott, we were all like, oh, and then something's gonna happen. We're like, oh shit, that's not where we thought it was going.
Do you know what the beauty of it is? The entire theme, I think, is going to be around betrayal and not trusting people, and then straight after that, we get Secret Invasion.
It's gonna fuck with our heads so much,
mate. I'm gonna be paranoid about real life shit. I'm gonna be like,
see. It's also something really cool from the trailer was we got the whole like Kang's armor and him using some powers or like abilities.
He is so comic book accurate. He is so that I said it to you before we started. That might be some of the best costume design we have seen in the MCU. The blue face shield looks phenomenal. Jonathan Majors is fucking Kang. He looks so good.
I'm excited. This makes me more excited for this whole thing of we're gonna get other Kang variants.
Jonathan Majors being allowed to play the same character in 20 different ways is going to be so good.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're gonna get so much. Like we're not gonna get another Kang that is this sort of like personality. So how he is with Scott isn't going to be the same as possibly how a Kang is with someone else. And that's going to be fun to see.
We might get like a good Kang further down the line. And if Scott survives this film, he might see him and be like, fuck that guy. And not want to trust him, even though he can. He's going to be so good. Also, can we talk about the brutal looking fight scene that we're going to get between Kang and Scott?
When he gets ripped into pieces.
Yeah, you see like Kang's shirt gets ripped off. You see him curb stomping his ass. He's throwing him around like a rag doll.
There's that line of, I don't need to win. We just both need to lose. Yeah. And it's like, so I'm sorry. Whether we're obviously getting Scott variants, one of them's dying.
You know what I think we might get to see as well? Hank Pym in Ant-Man armor.
Yeah, I think we probably will.
I'm so down for it because
he's gonna whip out some like OG suit that he has hidden away. This like comic book accurate OG.
I think Hank Pym is who's gonna die in this film. I don't think they want to kill Scott yet because it's getting too obvious that they're trying to get rid of some of the older characters for the next generation, and they've set Cassie up as Stinger, who would be the legacy character for Ant-Man. But so now everyone's like, oh no, Scott's going to die. The trailer makes it a bit too obvious. I think Hank is going to suit up as Ant-Man one last time and sacrifice himself.
Yeah, I do think I don't think we lose Scott full stop. That's why I think maybe a variant dies. They're making it too obvious that like Scott's going to sacrifice himself, but there's also set the precedent there's going to be multiple Scotts.
I'm down for like 12 Scots fighting Kang and Kang embarrassing them early on.
Yeah. Something that I thought was interesting was there's that thing of when like he's in Ant-Man suit and he's going large and he's getting like pulled apart. The same way that Scarlet Witch.
There is a lot of similarities in the way Kang and some of the things in this trailer happen compared to Wanda.
Yeah, the way Wanda ripped apart Mr. Fantastic mirrored very similar like feel.
But you've also got the bit in the trailer where Kang goes like that and shoots his blue power out, which just looks like you could convince me that they just motion capped Elizabeth Olsen doing that and CGI Kang'd over the exact same footage.
Possibly.
I'm not saying that is what, but like you could have convinced me if you wanted to, because it's just so similar, and I don't think that's on accident.
Oh no, I think that's 100% on purpose. Also trying to lean into this idea that Wanda's doing, like, her powers are more than just, they're clearly of a different level.
I'm really curious to see what has been cut from that trailer.
or hidden.
That's what I'm most interested about.
Give it a week, people will be like, why is this person getting punched in the face, but there's no one there?
That was my favourite part from the No Way Home trailer. It's like, why is that Spider-Man not jumping at anything, getting punched in the face?
Yeah.
Who is that?
It's like so blatant, but obviously
yeah.
they didn't.
But
yeah, looking forward to this.
I think that's all there is to say on the Ant-Man trailer. I think it's phenomenal, and I cannot wait for this film. And I understand that like the MCU's lost a bit of good faith with people because they're adamant Phase 4 was terrible. I hope that this film is good enough for them people to stop.
Well,
but I don't know if people are just hating it because it's cool to hate it now.
Bit of that. But this is the start of Phase 5 now, correct?
Yes.
So this is where like things are going to shift a gear.
Yeah.
It happened in Phase 2. Things shifted a gear. And everything started connecting and like little pieces start to connect.
And if stuff doesn't start to connect after this film, then people can rightly complain that it feels like it's not going anywhere. Because you can't be introducing Kang as Kang and not have it actually lead to a bit more.
Yeah. Agreed.
But anyway, let's talk about some Nerd News Network, baby. Oh, yes. That's another thing we can do in the next 50 episodes. You can make a fucking jingle for the Nerd News Network.
I'm just going to go on Fiverr and get someone to do it on Fiverr. Fiverr, do you want to sponsor us?
Hey, that'd be sick.
Sponsor us and we'll use Fiverr to make a jingle for Nerd News Network.
That'd be a good video as well. I used Fiverr to make my podcast lit. Rumors that Doctor Strange 3 could be getting fast-tracked. I have no idea what that fucking means in the sense of everything seems to be timed out pretty well. Have they started looking at the script for Doctor Strange 3 and gone, oh, that fits better here, so we need to do it a bit faster? Or do they just know that it's going to take a lot of production and therefore they're fast-tracking to the point of starting to film it so that they can have more time making it look beautiful?
Possibly. Part of me feels like I'd like to think they're being nice and giving production more time, but this is Disney. I don't know if they spend more money on production just for the sake of more time, because time is money. But I wouldn't be surprised if in doing the script and with like Ant-Man and clearly Loki season 2 is already written, and like some of the things that are going to happen in there, they're like, actually it'd be really good if this started to tie into, or like if something that's going on and set up actually ties in with Doctor Strange, and we kind of need actually Doctor Strange to be sooner then to make it feel better. I'm wondering if there's a bit of jigging around that they've changed their mind and gone, oh, actually we want Doctor Strange to be part of that little bit of storyline that's being set up. So like we're having to shift around a little bit. Or maybe they're bringing all the films forward and we're going to get them even quicker. Maybe everyone's being fast-tracked.
That's possible.
No, it's not possible. But every film gets shifted forward 6 months.
Yeah. The next big bit, and I have this as the last bit, but I'm not convinced that this isn't a genuine leak. I think this is a bullshit leak, but we're going to discuss it just in case it is true. But I'm almost certain it isn't.
I'm pretty certain it's just a very solid fan
attempt at trying to bait.
But maybe it's like a miscom on like this was a fan's thing, and like someone obviously just pulls offline and says it is the actual thing, sort of like.
But there was a leaked image of what was apparently James Gunn's plan for the first phase of the DCU. Some of it looks pretty believable, and then a lot of it doesn't. So we've got Superman Lost Son, which would make sense. He said he wants a young Superman. That could definitely work. Then Green Lantern, The Ring of Power. That could again be a brilliant film.
Yeah.
This next one is where they lose me. Teen Titans, The Judas Contract. The Judas Contract is a comic run arc that is probably the Teen Titans' most famous run. That is not something that is the first of a team film. That is the end of a Teen Titans trilogy.
Yeah, see, I didn't know what Judas Contract was. I presumed it was a specific comic.
Yeah, that is a very, very big comic for the Teen Titans. There is no way you can do right in one film, especially when you wouldn't have been introduced to any of the members of the Teen Titans in Superman or Green Lantern.
Yeah.
There's just no way you managed to do that right. That would have to have been like a phased end of phase 2 third Teen Titans film.
Yeah. I get you.
For that to have worked, which is why they've really lost me here. Then after that, you have Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Which again could be very believable.
Yeah.
And then there was a Justice League film. I think it was Tower of Babel.
I can't remember. See,
I can't remember what it was called. Which is a relatively, apparently it's quite a good Justice League story. I'm not familiar with it, where Batman really gets to be a bit of a detective, and they have to deal with his contingency plans. But if one of the big parts of that is him having contingency plans for the League, that again doesn't make sense to be the first Justice League film.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
go on.
I like where this is going, and I could understand a Superman, Green Lantern, Teen Titan, Green Arrow, Justice League. I can see that.
Yes.
But the names of the Judas Contract and the Tower of Babel, or whatever it was, and my understanding of them stories doesn't line up.
Do you know what I think happened? Like, because like you say, Superman, Green Lantern, Teen Titans, Green Arrow, and then obviously Justice League. I think it's almost safe to assume whatever the film choice is, it's going to build up to some sort of Justice League film, because that is the same as doing MCU build up to Avengers. Like, it just makes sense. It's just where it's going to go. I agree. The fact that then this Judas Contract is like a big story, I don't think that makes sense. This idea then, if the Justice League one is like around a Batman that is more detective-like, I think that is someone going, "Oh, the Batman we've just had, he's a very detective-heavy. If James Gunn was to use him, it'll probably have to go more detective-focused story. Oh, this one's a detective." Like, that's someone trying to fit the current The Batman film into it, when that's not going to be the case.
Yeah. It feels like a fan-made slideshow, which has a very poor DC logo on it as well, because you can see the color change, which just also reeks of there's no way the CEO, not CEO, yes, he's the CEO of DC Films, would not have a proper quality image that can go over there. It's just not going to happen.
I'm sorry, but he definitely has access to, and he will have a designer just chuck a deck together.
Yes. And it wouldn't be that low quality. And they've definitely kind of, as they're taking a picture of it, shook their hand a little bit to make it look blurry, to make it look like a leak. But if we were to go Superman, Green Lantern, Teen Titans, Green Arrow, Justice League, I could back that.
Yeah.
Teen Titans being that early is a touch weird, but I could back it.
Yeah. Superman makes sense. He's mentioned that it's obviously going to be some sort of Superman start of him being young, Smallville-esque style. We know that's coming. I actually really like the idea of them trying to rebuild the perception of Green Lantern.
Because Green Lantern's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and he's actually quite like he is a big DC character who unfortunately got shelved because of the mess of the.
The only thing that I will ever have against Ryan Reynolds and Taika Waititi is that they were both in that film. As much as they want to pretend they weren't, they were in it. Well, they were culpable.
The only reason that I'm okay with them is because they understand what a mess it was and mean the shit out of it as well.
Oh yeah, they hold their hands up that it was not good.
I fully see James Gunn doing a Green Lantern film because he'll want to re-establish Green Lantern and get it, like, understands that he's a big character to need and use and needs that early re-establishment.
Also, bringing in the Green Lantern brings in all of the lanterns, and the lanterns as a collective is that off the wall, lots of good stuff that James Gunn thrives on.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to
agree.
bring the
Teen
lanterns in nice and
Titans
early.
is maybe a bit early, but I guess it's also a way to kind of early on start setting up the young heroes.
And also, it's a fun way to introduce Robin as Robin's own character before having a Batman involved.
Yes, that's a good point. We could have a Robin, and that gives him a lot more freedom on where a Batman at what point he could bring in a Batman.
And also, with the way James Gunn does the Guardians of the Galaxy films and the Suicide Squad film, if he wants to take that kind of artistic approach to a Teen Titans film, it could be phenomenal.
Yeah. Green Arrow kind of it's that bit more ground level, we say, street level hero to add into the mix of things.
This list does feel a bit thrown together.
Yeah, it's definitely leaning fan heavy, but not too far fetched.
Yeah, I think it was a good fake, but once you spend like 30 seconds thinking about it, you can see that it's a fake.
Yes, agreed.
And to wrap up the DC news for the week, Matt Reeves has confirmed that he is deep in the writing process of Batman 2, and that the Penguin TV show that's being done is going to lead directly into Batman 2.
Yes. Which I'm all for.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know that it is being worked on. That means that he's not been told that he needs to worry about finding a new job.
Yeah. We're about to have the DCU with a sub thing of BFU, Batfam Universe.
Bring back DC's Black Label.
Just the Batman,
rumors,
though.
Yeah, there was rumors they were going to give Matt Reeves the keys to the castle, essentially. Let him run the Black Label and basically just go, you're going to do this alternate style where you can have a bit more fun, set the tone to the main character, and not worry about anything else. And you just do the films over there, and we'll do the more... I don't want to say mainstream, because it makes it sound like these Batman films aren't mainstream, but we'll do the more big, expansive universe where we have to worry about all the little things.
Yeah, I think they will be careful, though, because as much as me and you can separate, a casual fan would probably start to get confused while there's two Batmans going on.
And I do think the branding would be a big part of that, by making it very clear that DC Black Label is not the DCU. I think that's why it's so important to have that as a label, as the DC Black Label. These films, you go watch any of them. It doesn't matter if you've seen any of the other ones. There you go. You want to go watch a superhero film and not watch 24 hours of films before that? That's where you go. And there is a market for that now.
Yeah, there is.
People still want superhero films, but they don't want to have to spend 40 hours keeping up to date. Give them a Black Label. Yeah, Marvel make a red label, DC make a black label, and just have that be one-shot stories that have nothing to do, different actors, different directors, try shit.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. I really
am.
D&D.
I'm available for the Marvel red label stuff. Yes, this D&D drama. Fill me in.
So I've briefly looked into this because I'm not fully understanding on it. So D&D is currently, they've had over the years several game systems, they've done updates. So we had 1.5, then it was 3.5e edition. It was different editions of the game rules, and they have done them every so often. The current system that most people play in modern day for D&D is 5e, 5th edition. It was a lot, I would say, my understanding is that it's a lot easier to get into and understand and more beginner friendly than 3.5. People have their opinions on which edition is better, as they do with any. It's the old edition's a better system. But the big thing was 3.5 had a very... They have these things called an open... there was a games license with it. So essentially, supplementary stuff, where it was very strict in 3.5. With 5e, they brought out this thing, a legal document called the Open Game License, which was essentially, you can produce supplementary books, you can do shows, content, blah, 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 like anything you want D&D, it's all on this open game license, as long as you're not using like direct D&D branding or direct content from like their book. Like,
okay, so you can set stuff in our universe as long as you don't steal the stuff we're already doing.
essentially, it was like you can use our game rules and classes and stuff, but like in your book, you can't call it a dungeon master. It has to just be a game master. You can't put the D&D logo on it or say it's a D&D book. It's a RPG role-playing game book. But
So it allowed people to design their own campaigns and sell that campaign without, as long as they weren't selling it as a D&D campaign.
Yes, it was a lot more open and free, and obviously content creators never had any worry, and you got the shows like Critical Role and Dimension 20.
All the stuff that kept D&D alive for a long time.
Things that have boosted 5e and brought it into a lot bigger audience. Things like Critical Role and Dimension 20, these huge shows online have popularized, and Stranger Things has helped with that. And like there's a lot of things that have like turned D&D from this like Satanist thing that kids do in their basement to, no, this is a fun thing that just anyone can play and enjoy.
Yeah.
They are currently in the process of making a new game system. It's that time again. They're like, oh, we want to move to something new, make adjustments. Basically, it's like their way of patching, buffing, nerfing stuff. Like rogues are ridiculously broken, so their way to nerf them is like updated the rules. So we're going to have D&D 1 is what it's going to be called. It's going to be the launch, like the game rule, D&D 1.
Okay, question just quickly.
Yeah.
Because this isn't an online game, surely if you don't like the changes they make, you just go, fuck you, I'm playing by this rule set.
Well, the drama comes in a different form. So this D&D 1's been worked on. There's been some like early like preview looks at stuff that they've talked about. Then there was a leak of a new D&D 1 game license, which was the legal document that goes along with it.
Okay, I think I see where this is going.
D&D Beyond, I think, or it got leaked early, like an early preview look. It's not the official document or anything, but essentially it was like a lot more strict again. And it was something like people are free to make supplementary whatever, but it's like companies that make supplementary D&D stuff that earns over, it was something like 75 grand or like, so it was like some big chunk of money. Like if you earn revenue over that, Wizards of the Coast gets a cut. So your likes of Critical Role, who if they put out a book, it sells thousands of copies and they're going to make a chunk of money. Wizards of the Coast want a cut because you're making money off their game system, essentially. Standard thing, business wants a cut of money when you're making money and they're not. The fandom is up in arms, and in my opinion, nothing official is out, and people are, as they do on the internet, running for the hills, screaming like this is the word. Like the people are jumping to conclusions, shouting fire before there's any smoke,
thinking this is the death of D&D because the people making the original game have got greedy.
Yes, and people like Wizard of the Coast are going to ruin it. They're owned by Hasbro now, or like everyone needs to cancel their D&D Beyond subscription because that's owned by Wizard of the Coast. And it's like, oh, that's going to show them, and you can put a reason why. Because like, oh, all these shows like Critical Role and Dimension 20 are going to be the only ones because they pick to let them do them. Any other content creator is going to get copyright striked. People aren't going to be able to put out content for it anymore. Blah, 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 blah. There is a fan section, and I think until it's fully out, I don't think anyone can really, like, there's a lot of people going, I'm not making my decision until it's out and I actually see what's going on. Because people that have like D&D Beyond subscriptions use it for like, it gives you unlimited character sheets and stuff. So like they might have fuck tons of characters, or DMs might have a fuck ton of their campaign contents on there. And it's like, well, I'm not just going to cancel my subscription for the sake of a leaked document. I think the worry is
that could have been a one draft that's been amended 1 million times.
Yeah.
And actually, most of the stuff people are worried about has been clarified and isn't bad at all.
Yeah, I think I would like to hope that there is a fan content section and pretty much everything like the shows like Critical Role, Dimension 20, anything you make on YouTube, any TikToks or anything like that, all is going to fall under fan content. I think the only time that something might be changing is the sake of, like, if Critical Role puts out a book and it goes on Kickstarter and it makes fucking millions of dollars, Wizards of the Coast just wants a cut. And it's like, I can kind of get that.
How much did Amazon fucking pay Critical Role to turn The Legend of Vox Machina into a show?
This is the thing.
Come on.
Well, it's like Critical Role did a Kickstarter that was one of the biggest animated Kickstarters, and they were like wanting funding for 10 episodes, and then Amazon was like, "Now we want to buy 20."
Yeah, when they saw the amount of people begging for it, they were like, "Fuck it, here's the money, we want it."
It's like, oh, you're sorting out production of it and doing all the studios. Like, we just give you the money to put it on our platform. We'll have 20 episodes, sure. But yeah, I think it's things like that where Wizard of the Coast, rightly or wrongly so, want their cut. And fans are just worried that this old open freedom is going away because Hasbro wants money. It's all back to this big evil corporation is stealing our game. Who knows? Until it's out.
A little bit unclear at the minute. So I mean, we might end up going, "Oh, the concern was genuine. Fuck them." But it could also be a case of, no, they just don't want people doing multi-million-dollar deals for something that they deserve a cut of.
Yeah, it's like,
but fans go be fans and still enjoy it.
Say it was like, you got to look at it like this. Say, Valorant was something you could take, and I could make a third-party DLC, which is like a bunch of maps, and then I sold that, and everyone loved these maps, and I made millions of pounds off of it. Riot would be like, hold up, the fuck, you're using our base game and selling it an add-on? We're not happy about that. Like,
well, I mean, it's like maps you can buy for Minecraft. Like, through the Bedrock version, you can buy maps and stuff.
Yeah.
The creator gets money for that, but Microsoft take their percentage off of it.
Yeah, it's just
because royalties. We're giving you a legitimate marketplace to do it.
Yeah.
And you are selling stuff for our game. You get the bulk of the money because you've done the hard work. But if we didn't exist, you couldn't do it anyway.
I think the
as
the
long
reason...
as it's not a ridiculous amount, and they don't go after tiny little creators with like 5,000 subs who make like £10 off a video if they're lucky, and they're going, "We want 50%." I don't think it's an issue.
No, and I think also Wizard of the Coast
Role makes a fuck ton of money.
Well, yeah, Wizard of the Coast also know that Critical Role brings them in huge amounts of money just through their fandom. So they're like, even if it was some strict thing, Critical Role and Dimension 20, who are the two biggest like D&D things, they'll just have some like private agreement license.
They'll come in and
yeah, they'll just go, oh yeah, you're fine. You have this pass. Obviously, your standard content creators are worried, but also your standard content creators reading a legal document that they probably have no legal knowledge, and they're taking it for what bits they do understand, what bits they're seeing on TikTok where people love to just make content for the sake of making content, and yeah, everyone's a bit up in arms because it ain't gonna change. It's just people are getting funny. The thing I find funny is like, it's that standard of like, I'm going to cancel my subscription because that's going to make a point to make a change. Yeah, sure. Probably a lot of them will, and they'll hear you and they'll go, oh no. You still bought a 50 quid book though, didn't you? So
it'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on and see how it plays out. It would be interesting to see how it affects the D&D film that's coming out.
Oh, well, that's official Wizards of the Coast thing.
Yeah, no, so it'll be interesting to see if that now
tanks.
Yeah, tanks.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, people boycott it or anything.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. I feel like D&D...
I won't be boycotting that.
D&D people are like... It's less... It's sort of screw Wizards of the Coast, but more so screw Hasbro. And it's like... It's that weird thing of like, I imagine someone will be like, I'm not going to give them money, but actually I really want to watch a D&D film because I've been kind of wanting this for many years. So I'm still going to see it, but I'm going to be like,
But yeah, it's definitely a wait and see situation.
It's
100%. An interesting one to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Right. On to the Superhero Showdown.
Yes.
Of episode 50.
Yes.
It is the first semi-final of the DC Heroes bracket.
Ooh.
We have Swamp Thing versus Red Hood.
Yes.
Red Hood is supposed to have the advantage here.
He is.
Don't know what that's going to be.
Neither do I.
Going to be honest with you. I think we run this real quick and just make the entire Superhero Showdown a short.
Oh.
Swamp Thing stomps Red Hood in about 3 seconds. I don't think that's the case completely. I think Red Hood. I think the best bet as an advantage is his guns have incendiary rounds, because I think we know plants don't like fire.
Well, yeah. He has I'm down with that. He has incendiary rounds, and he knows what he's against.
Yeah, he's aware of what he's up against. He's packed his incendiary rounds. He's ready for this fight. Now, as someone who mained Red Hood in Injustice 2, I myself as Red Hood beat the ever-loving shit out of something.
Oh, of course.
However, in the real fake world, I think it's a real tricky thing, because it's not just like, oh, it's in the middle of a city, so we're safe because there's no trees around, because he can bring the trees out of the ground underneath the concrete and break the concrete. I think Red Hood survives a good while.
Yeah.
I think I genuinely think his biggest issue is the bloodlustedness of Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and it's that whole thing of, which happened last time with Swamp Thing, was like, I'm sorry, but as soon as those vines get a hold, it's that thing of like, he can hold it off for as long as, but like, as soon as, like, there comes a point where like something slightly slips up and then he's overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like,
so
it's like
I think
too
in a
much.
normal fight, the incendiary rounds would be enough to make Swamp Thing go, fuck, this hurts, I'm off.
Yeah.
But he's bloodlusted, so he's going to keep fighting, and it won't be enough to kill him. It's just going to hurt like a bitch, which is going to make him angrier, and eventually the vines will get hold of him, and he will literally rip him apart.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm guessing in the comics Red Hood would have fought Poison Ivy at time.
Yes.
So like, he has that sort of experience, which I do think helps him in the sense of like, he's fought things like this before. Like, he can understand what weakness, and like we say, like, he knows what he's doing. But I think it's a case of like, he has incendiary rounds. Like, I'm sorry, there comes a point when he reloads.
Yeah.
And it's like, in that moment, Swamp Thing gets a hold, boom, overwhelmed. Like, Swamp Thing's not going to give up. There's no like, oh, I've got him on a weakness. He's like kind of being cautious. No, he's bloodlusted. Doesn't care. He's going to keep going. So that moment of reloading or rearming himself, like, that's his weakest point, and that's when Swamp Thing's going to take advantage. And like you say,
I completely agree.
Rip apart, like crush him, whatever it is.
Suffocate him, yeah, the lot. But I do think Red Hood makes a very honest fight of it, and he really makes him fucking work for it. He doesn't give up easy, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, Swamp Thing comes out of that thing charred and beaten,
angry.
But yeah, like, he ain't looking good at the end of it, but I don't think Red Hood can do enough.
I'm very much agreeing with you there. I think.
So yeah, let us know in the comments.
Something is our first finalist for the DC Heroes portion of the bracket. Next week we will.
Tough shit.
Disagree, make sure you subscribe and like so that we remember to read your angry comment.
Yes.
Next week we'll be finding out the second finalist with Raven versus Blue Beetle. Ooh. Which will be a good one.
Interesting.
But that is all from us this week.
Yes.
50 episodes. Appreciate it. Make sure you like it and make sure you subscribe. Make sure you go down into the bio and subscribe to me and Hori as well, because like we said, we're both live a lot more than we used to be now. So if you're into video games, it is worth coming and hanging out with us. Yes. And you can always ask us more superhero related questions as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, look out for potentially video on Spotify coming soon. And if anyone out there has any links in their place of work that might want to buy a sponsorship spot, make sure you reach out to us, because maybe we can make something work. Have a lovely week, and we will see you next time.
See you next week.